Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Before we get into today's discussion, I just want to make it clear that everything that's going to be said here today, it's all speculation. Okay, this is just pure speculation on my behalf, so just want to make that clear. I don't know any of this. What I'm going to say, right? I'm not sure if this is the absolute truth, but it could be. It just could be. So I just want to, throw that little proviso out there so everyone's aware that what I'm about to talk about, it could be real, and if it is, it has major implications, and if it's not, it's just this is speculation. I don't know. I can't prove this, but it does make sense when you really think about it. Anyway, we're going to start with the way things are going right now with the entire UFO situation. This has been a dark week, actually. It's been a dark couple weeks, actually, for UFO disclosure. Just yesterday, John Greenwald, who runs the Black Vault, he ran a video and posted a little article on his website talking about how he has been denied again a Freedom of Information Act request that was asking for all these Navy UFO videos. And it was denied, and he gets into that in his video. I will leave a link for it. I'm just going to read a little piece here from his website. It says here, the United States Navy Office of the Judge Advocate General just rendered their decision and denied a major Freedom of Information Act appeal submitted by the Black Vault in September. I'm just going to stop there for a second. Of course, I talked about this whole thing back in September as well in a podcast, but John has been, he's somebody out there, of all the people out there looking at the UFOs, he's the one who keeps filing these Freedom of Information Act requests, and right now it's not looking good. He got denied again. He appealed it, and he got this, now it's denied. Anyway, let's just read the rest of this here. It says, this appeal was profiled on this channel, and the hope was that the details submitted in that appeal, along with the legal argument of justification for release, would rather render a decision reversing the original denial. It did not. The result of this case may resonate throughout future disclosures in the Freedom of Information Act sense and decisions by military branches and government agencies, all citing the UAP Security Classification Guide. And then he has a video, and again, I will provide the link to this little article to his website, and also there'll be a link to the video. Actually, the link for the video is in his website, so you could just click on it there. And also, there's a congressman who actually thinks the same way we do. This is unfortunately, he's given us some bad news here. It's Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, is basically he was on just in the last couple of days here. There was a video on a different YouTube channel called Project Unity where he gets into this. What he thinks is going on, basically that there's a cover-up, and he doesn't believe we're going to get any further on this, that the United States government, whoever is sitting on this, they're not going to release this information. They're not going to tell the public the truth about this. And here was an article from October 21st that was in News Nation where he got into this a little bit too. I'm just going to read a little bit from this article. It says here, in May, the House Intelligence Subcommittee held its first congressional hearing on UFOs in nearly 50 years, just months after the Pentagon promised it would investigate UFO sightings more seriously. All of that came after the New York Times published cockpit footage from a Navy pilot who encountered a UFO, or unidentified aerial phenomenon as they are formally called, in the air. The Pentagon then said it would make more UAP footage public, but the government has still not released any finding as to what the objects were, or if they have any information or hunch at all that the objects may have origins outside of Earth. Representative Tim Burchett, R. Tennessee, however, believes the government does have more information than it is telling the public. Yeah, he's right. I just want to stop there for a second. Tim Burchett is absolutely, completely correct on this. He's absolutely right. Everything he said there, everything he says about this, he's absolutely correct. Anyway, here's a quote from it. He says, I think it's the biggest cover-up we've ever seen. The Intelligence Committee reviewed it, and I was asked afterwards what I thought about it, and I said, we got hosed, the American public did. Burchett said there is information not being disclosed, and he says this confidently, claiming he has talked to multiple Navy pilots who have encountered objects while flying what they have absolutely no explanation for, something Burchett says is absolutely a security risk. If we have something in our military air zone that we do not control, dadgummit, we'd better be concerned, Burchett said. And of course, the question is Is it the Russians? Well, if it was the Russians, Putin's ego, he would land one of the UFOs on the White House lawn, get out bare-chested riding a unicorn, punch the president in the mouth, get back on it, and fly back. Burchett said the only explanation are one of two things. Either we have captured something and we are reverse engineering, which some Navy pilots I have talked to think that's what that it is, from the so-called skunk works, or it is something from outer space. Burchett doubts it is a skunk work, a term used for a top-secret government project. However, given that UFOs are defying all laws of physics. Literally, it was one of our pilots in one of those aircrafts. I mean, that would be basically a ketchup packet, Burchett said. They could not stand the G-force these things are doing. These aren't putting off any heat sensors or anything, and there's no friction. And basically, he in this interview he was that he had on with Project Unity, which I'll leave the link for that too, and you could check that out. He's basically saying that he doesn't think there's going to be any information coming forth on this whole thing, and it's just the way it is. And I'm actually starting to believe that too. I mean, we still don't even have that report, and now there's conflicting reports. There was we were supposed to have this. The Pentagon was supposed to give to Congress on October 31st the UFO report, and there was it had been reported that that they did do that, but that the declassified public version is just not made available yet. And now there's conflicting reports saying that no, Congress has received nothing either. So there's no classified or declassified report from the Pentagon yet. So it seems like behind the scenes there are efforts ongoing to basically keep the lid on it. They're trying to put the lid back on it. And so with all of that in mind, right? You see how things are going here. I don't think I'm just gonna, before we get into the main. The main part here today, before I talk about what I think is going on, I think this is important to talk about this part first, because I don't think the government is capable of I'm starting to believe that the United States government, or any other government for that matter of the world, is capable of telling the public what's going on. I think that it's just not going to happen. I just don't see it happen. They're never going to tell the whole truth. Anyway, they might give us a little pieces of the truth here and there, but they're just not going to do it. I just don't see it happening. But the thing is it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. This stuff might seem dark, like a dark time for ufology right now, for these past few weeks, right? Starting with that New York Times article right before October 31st, before the release of the report, where they basically tried to downplay the UFO stuff, right? I just, it might seem like that, but you know what? I don't think it is. I think we're heading toward, I think it's not going to be the government that unveils this, right? That's not it. I think it's going to be the people. The people of the world are actually going to start opening their eyes and realizing that yes, the government does. The government can't. They can't tell us. They can't talk about what they know. They just can't do it. And in a way, maybe that's the right thing. Maybe that's the right approach. Maybe that's the way it has to be. Maybe they have to be secretive about it. And we're just, the people like me and a lot of other people who want disclosure just don't see it their way. But and I said this before, they could be right, and they might be. There might be reasons that they can't talk about it, but it doesn't mean that the rest of the world just can't acknowledge it anyway without them. Like, we could acknowledge this reality without them. And I'm going to present what I think is evidence, what I think might be the message that the aliens are trying to send us, possibly. Again, this is all speculation, so just keep that in mind. But it has to deal with the Ariel School incident. Now, of course, I just recently talked about this in a couple different. I actually talked about it in a recent podcast, and there's also two different videos I believe I had on it. And I talked about this a lot, actually, Ariel School 1994 incident, and but. I rewatched that documentary, Ariel Phenomenon, and I did some other research on this in the last couple of days, and I thought about it, and I think I understand what was going on, what the whole purpose of that whole thing was. Like before, it's all speculation before, but I mean, and even I mean, that's not going to sound right. Yeah, it was. I speculated before, but now I have a different idea on what it might be, and I think this might be it. It might be it, and we're going to go through that. And of course, as everyone knows, the Ariel School incident happened in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, in September of 1994, where there was about 62 school kids out on a break, in the morning, around 10:30 in the morning, on a recess, playing around while all the teachers were inside having a staff meeting. And they're all outside playing around and, eating their lunches and all that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, a flying saucer, at least one, shows up. There were other objects there too, lands, and there were at least 2 alien beings that were seen near this. And one of those alien beings communicated with some of the children telepathically. And there was a message that was sent. Those kids came back. They were interviewed by different people after the incident was over. Most notably, the late Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist. He traveled to Zimbabwe and he met with the teachers and all the students, and he interviewed quite a few of them. And to try to find out, what they experienced during this encounter with these beings. So basically, what happened was all these kids were out playing. This craft landed. There was these beings there. They communicated telepathically with some of them, and then at some point, all the kids got scared and start running back into the school to try to tell the teachers what just happened. And when the teachers came out, there was no evidence that the things were gone. The flying saucer was gone, and that's it. Now, for years now, over the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, you start seeing some of these kids. They're now growing up. They're interviewed now, and they all stick by their story, the ones that are interviewed. And there was a film that just was released earlier this year called Ariel Phenomenon, and it's only available on one place right now. You could buy or rent it on this website, arielphenomenon.com. I'll leave the link for that too. And that movie basically, you see some of the interviews with the kids that happened back in that time, and right after the incident in 1994, and you see them now as adults talking about what they remember of it, and they're all sticking by the same story. So to me, right, and this is the thing I tried to point out in the previous podcast when I talked about it. As far as I'm concerned, that this whole thing, that movie itself, constitutes undeniable proof of the extraterrestrial presence here. There's no question now. I mean, we don't need the government to disclose anything. I mean, if we could focus on that, right, on that movie itself. Right, just that movie. Just take that movie and look at it. Give this to people in the mainstream media. Have them look at it, and then walk. I mean, at the end of this, how could you deny it? It's happened. It's real. You see these kids when this thing was first happened. You see the kids telling you what happened, and then you see them as adults now. Right, it took a long time for this to unfold. Basically, this story is taking many years, basically, to reach a greater number of people within the population of the world. I think that's what's happened here. I think what happened on that day was that these aliens came here, specifically landed at that school to deliver a message to the entire world. And that and knowing you have to remember, it's a difficult thing. If you're from someplace else, you're from another planet, it'd be hard to communicate, right? Like to them, right? We're dummies, right? So they have to figure out a way that they're going to how they can get that message through to the whole world, so the whole world understands it, right? So the whole world could understand what's going on and what they're trying to tell us. And I think I deciphered that message, and I think I know what that message is. Now, if you watch that documentary Ariel Phenomenon, and there's you don't even if you don't have that documentary, you could see there's been other documentaries that you'll probably find a lot of things on YouTube where you see some of these kids getting interviewed. But I do think that new documentary is where it's all at. I mean, that's the one. That's the key. Right, but you could see them. A lot of these kids talk about what they experienced. Okay, when they were on the ground, right? The kids were in front of these things, and these aliens. One of them was on the ground staring at them. Right, basically, a lot of the kids said it seemed like this thing was staring at all of them at the same time somehow. Right, I mean, the eyes went around the head somehow, insect-like, I guess. Big black eyes, and it was transmitting a message to these kids. And a lot of the kids, when I was watching this documentary, one of the little kids, this little girl was saying that she was afraid that the aliens were going to attack her, right? And then there was other kids saying that they thought that the aliens were going to take them, right? The messages were varied, but they didn't. When you put it all, when you look at the whole thing, the message was not a good message, really. When you really look at the whole thing, some of them said that they had visions of destruction and despair, basically, because of our technology. In fact, one of the quotes directly from one of the little kids is, they want people to know that we're actually harming the planet, and we must not get too technologed, whatever that means. So, what like a lot of people would look at that, these comments as, okay, they're trying to tell us, hey, we need to be peaceful with each other, or things are gonna lead to destruction and mayhem. That's a lot. The message that when I first heard about this a long time ago, originally, and then over the years, the message that seems to come out of this a lot of times, at first blush, is that they're trying to tell us that if technology could lead to our own destruction, we're going to end things for ourselves. Like, we're going to cause our own destruction. I think that is the message, but with one little caveat. I think the destruction is going to come from the aliens themselves. I think what was going on that day was a warning to the humankind, to the human race, trying to tell us that if we go to any further than we've already have, we're pretty bad, right? But if we take things too far, that they're going to intervene, and we're not going to like that. I think that's the message. I think that was the message that they were trying to convey to that day to the world. I mean, let's look at the whole situation here, and let's, like, from the beginning here. Now, of course, there's been alleged extraterrestrial sightings, going on through the centuries. Actually, I mean, it goes back, in ancient times and Roman times, right? There's been sightings of strange craft. I think they've always been here, right? Off and on. Who knows? But it seems like, of course, we talk about this all the time. In 1947, they showed up, it seemed like, in force and in numbers. There were a lot of sightings all of a sudden in 1947, which happened to be only 2 years after we dropped 2 atomic bombs, the United States did, on Japan. And it seems like they've been here ever since. And there's been a lot of different activities, all kinds of activities, showing up at nuclear sites or nuclear missile silos, shutting missiles down, turning missiles on. There's all kinds of stories like that. Checking, basically showing up in our military airspace. They're very interested in our military. It's funny, isn't it, that in Roswell, the Roswell crash, it was in New Mexico, that's where we basically came up. That's where the only, at that time, right, Roswell was the only atomic bomb group in the world. That was the location. That was it. And isn't it funny that a flying saucer crashed there? So this has been like that. If you think of it from that point, right? So we destroyed. Well, there was a lot of people that died suddenly because we dropped atomic bombs basically on 2 different places, 2 different cities in Japan in 1945 to end World War II. 2 years later, it seems like the aliens are here in force, and they've been very interested in our military capabilities. They've been showing up at different sites over the years. They're always seen. It seems like there's all these stories out there. A lot of the people that experience them have gone on the record and talked about this. And in addition to these other things that are going on, right, the abductions and the hybridization and all that stuff, that we can't stop that. They're going to do that, right? That's all. They're here now, and that's whatever that purpose is. We're not really sure. We could speculate all we want. We don't know what they're up to, right? But you have to look at it from an advanced civilization's point of view. I guess look at it from the point of view of human beings. Say at some point we like 10,000 years from now, 20,000 years, 50,000 years from now, if we're still around. Say we're traveling deep in space and we find a civilization that's basically very similar to what human beings were like in the 1800s or something like that. We wouldn't want them to know what we're doing. We'd probably experiment on them. I mean, say they're not human either, but they're an intelligent form of life, but so we don't want to really, let them. We don't want them to know that we're there because that might cause some sort of issues with their development or whatever, right? But we would do things. We possibly would, experiment on them, study them, without them knowing it. Right, and that could be what's going on here. But what I think is going on here is because we dropped those bombs in 1945, I think these alien beings are just waiting. If there's another nuclear attack on any other country, if that ever happens again, right? Like say, for instance, right now we have issues right now with Russia and Ukraine. There was a stray missile that went flying into Poland. Like all of a sudden, everyone's on World War III alert, right? But say someone like Vladimir Putin decides to, go insane and drop a nuclear bomb on some city in Ukraine right now. We might not have to worry about World War III, because it's very possible that what they were trying to tell us in 1994 is that if this happens again, we're watching you. Right. If that happens again, that means we got to stop you now. We're taking over. What that means, I don't know. I don't know if that means leveling the planet. I'm not sure about that. I think maybe that's the purpose behind they're going to take over, and this explains everything else. This explains the alien abductions, and the hybridization program. All of a sudden, that gets put into motion, right? The takeover plan, the change, as was talked about by David Jacobs in his book, The Threat. So basically, what I think is what is possible here is that in 1994, that was the beginning of them trying to communicate to us, trying to reach out to us. I mean, you can't deny this story. I mean, I don't know what the mainstream media is doing right now. I don't know what the rest of the world is doing right now. I mean, it's time to acknowledge this a little bit more. This is a major historical event that happened in Zimbabwe in September of 1994. Major. It was communication from aliens giving us a warning the world that if we go too far, then that means we're unsuitable for any. They can't sit back and let us become more advanced technologically, because then we pose a threat to anybody, other civilizations within this galaxy, within the universe. So I think that's what it is. I think that's what's been going on. I think it's very possible that I think about it this way. It's hard. It would be hard for them to try to convey a message to us. It takes something like this to convey a message. It's the only way. You need to think about what they're trying to say. They don't want to scare us outright, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge when you look at this story, when you understand and you see the witnesses, right? When they're kids and now that they're growing up, you understand after it's all over with, oh, it's real. There's actual beings that are not humans that are obviously here. And they're telling us something. They wanted to give a message. Think about this. Isn't that the way you would do it? I mean, it'd be difficult to try to do it with adults. I mean, if they tried to land in Washington, D.C., the next, the military would be, shooting at them. This is the only way they could do it, because the only way they could try to get that message out there. They send these telepathic messages to all these kids, and you have to look at it as a whole now. You over time, you sit back and you study all of it and you think about all of it. It's like, okay, this kid's saying, they're going to attack us. They're going to take us. That sounds bad, right? You're getting too technologed, right? Which is basically the message that was conveyed to this one little girl who, telepathically, it appeared in her conscious, she said. And they're telling her and these other kids, hey, you're getting, technology is not a good thing. And the message is, if we can't control ourselves, then somebody else is going to come in here and control us for us. They're going to take over, because then that means that we can't control ourselves. I mean, because really, when you think about it, what kind of intelligent race is going to drop a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb on other people? How could we, if you're standing outside the box and you're looking at this mayhem that goes on Earth, it's not just that. I mean, look at the violence, the way we violently attack each other, countries. Look at all the stuff that just went happen in Ukraine, all the people killed, right? Look at the way people just kill each other, right, in this world for no reason. We're uncontrollable, but we need to get a grip. I think the message is here, we need to get a grip. We need to all come together. Right, we need to stop this. We need to figure out a way. All countries need to figure out a way to, end this threat of nuclear destruction. Because if one incident happens where some country decides, you know what, we're gonna launch a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon at this other country, and we're gonna kill a whole bunch of people, right? And then that's it. That means we're no longer we're useless. What good are we to anybody? How could we? If you're an advanced race, you're going to look at this. We can't let this continue. We got to take over. We got to take control, because these people are out of control. Look what they do to each other. They're blowing each other up with nuclear bombs. I mean, look at it. The problem begins in a lot of these countries when any country allows someone, a dictator, when they install dictators, that's where it really begins, right? When you have, like in Russia with Putin, or North Korea with Kim Jong-un, right? These people are out of their minds. You need everyone. You can't have that. You just can't have one person in charge like this, killing people. These people kill people. Right, kill people for what they say. If they don't like what somebody says about them, right, then they have them killed. These people act like animals. They're out of control. We need to get a grip. The whole world needs to get a grip. We can't have countries like this anymore. We can't have countries where there's dictators running them, because they could do whatever they want. If they want to start a nuclear war, then they will, and there's going to be no one to stop them. And anyway, that's that. I think that's the message. The message is if that happens, there's been nuclear tests. There's been all kinds of tests over the decades. Since those bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? Since that time, there's been all sorts of testing with nuclear weapons. I don't think they're worried about that as much, but they're worried about it. They're worried about one of us using it against somebody else, and if that happens again, that could mean the end of this, the whole end. That could mean that they're going to come in and take over. That could mean that's going to trigger the change. It could be the case. That could be where that's what the message is that the aliens were delivering in September of 1994. It's just taking us a long time to decipher that message. I think it's that message. There was a message there somewhere in all of that, in all those little interviews with all those little kids back then. And now, as they're adults talking about it now, how they look at it now, basically the same way. They're able to articulate it a little bit better now that they're grown up. But the message is clear, is that technology is bad for us, in the sense that if we use it against each other in this kind of way, then guess what? We're going to attack you. Like the one little kid said, hey, she was getting feelings that they wanted to attack. Right? Other little kids are saying they want to take us. They're going to attack us. They're going to take us. They're going to take over. That's what it means. That they're telling you that message from Ariel School. There was a message conveyed by those aliens, and I think this is the beginning of deciphering it. Right? What it's saying is they're going to take over. It's not. They're not. They weren't there as space neighbors coming down. Hey, you better calm down with your. I don't think this is not what the message is, which a lot of people thought it was. Right? They were like, a lot of people thought it was the aliens coming here and saying, hey, you better stop this, or you're going to blow each other up, and the world's going to look like this. No. That's not what the message was. I think the message is, you better stop this, or guess what? We're taking over. That's what the message is. Not some message of peace. It's more like, the message. If you ever saw the movie, the old one, I never saw the remake, but there was an old movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still. It was 1951. The message was This alien landed on Earth, and he basically warned Earth that if you don't stop this nuclear proliferation, that we're just going to have to blow you all up. I think that's probably what these beings are doing. Basically, it's almost the same thing. Life's imitating art here. Basically, the message is you got to get a grip, or we're going to take over, and you're done. I think that's the message from the that the whole purpose of that Ariel incident, the UFO landing and the aliens meeting with those kids, the whole purpose of that was to warn us: if you don't get your act straight, we're taking over, and you're done.